Hi, Like Your Earthkeeper here. Welcome to our show, The Story of a Yogi. And our guest today is Thomas Wright. How are you, Thomas?
I'm well.
We're so excited to have you.
Thank you. I'm excited too.
So, where should we start? Like, what I want to hear is your journey. If you don't mind sharing, like, how you came to be where you are today.
Oh, wow. So you want the extended version then?
I would
In
love
a
it.
nutshell?
I would love it.
Well, so I guess truthfully, it starts when I was young. I've always been interested in different culture, different religion, different just people. I was very, very am very, very sensitive to other people, and I knew that about myself at a very young age. Though I didn't quite understand it, so that kind of started me going, seeking, and I ventured through different churches and different things like that. In the Western Hemisphere, Christian's the predominant religion, so all my family, were Christian and stuff like that. Many of them non-denomination. So that's kind of how I went with it. I stayed open. That was something I was always aware of about myself, is I never really shut anything out. I kind of always stayed open, and that allowed me to journey through different churches and things of that nature. Like, if I was staying at a buddy's and I knew that they went to church, like I was always ready or willing to go to church with them, experience. I got a buddy that was a Pentecostal. I tried like Catholic and other like non-denomination churches, family and stuff, Baptist, Southern Baptist, and experienced all of those services and different things of that nature. And but I just kept questioning and wondering. And but to get into, I guess, more of the adult life, so I have severe Crohn's disease. I wasn't diagnosed until 2014. So the early onset of symptoms started in early 2021. I was about 21, so around 2011.
Okay.
I was 21, turning 22. It was in between that time period, and it came on very fast and very sudden. I was in the hospital and wasn't really sure what was happening or anything like that. The doctors were trying to figure it out, and I was misdiagnosed quite a few different times. So this happened for years. I actually came into what I now know as remission in the early part of it. And so we didn't think nothing of it. Me, the specialist, we thought like all is well, all is good. So after being in remission for about a year is when things changed, like suddenly changed. I got very, very ill, just like what had happened the first time. So instantly I went to the ER and was trying to figure out what was going on, and I was still continuously going misdiagnosed. So this started in early 2014. I started to, I was sick more than I wasn't. I was in the hospital more than I wasn't, in and out. Lots of pain, just the struggle was real. And this continued on. So during this time process of going through all of this stuff, that seeking was even more so, like I was dying, and I could tell, like I knew I was that ill. Um, uh, I was ill enough to the point, and I didn't know this until after I'm well, as you see me today. But some of my family, my cousin in particular, was talking to me, and he said, "Man, I'm so glad that you're in remission, that you're better." He said, "Do you realize that when you were really sick, like, and I don't mean this in any kind of mean way, but that we were taking bets, like, man, like, how long do you think he's got?" Like, it was that serious, it was a rough time span. Rough and enlightening, all in the same coin, two heads of the same coin, because it deepened that seeking. I was dying, so I was starting to ask myself the questions and the what does all of this mean on the deepest of levels, because I felt like my time was running out. Like, I didn't have much time. I mean, I was bedridden, and we're talking, I was 23 years old. I was young, and I was very, very healthy. I was very healthy throughout life. To this point, fast metabolism, could eat whatever I wanted to, not gain a whole lot of weight, athletic. Very rarely did I ever have to go to the doctors and have to deal with a lot of, to the point that I didn't even carry insurance, through work. I didn't feel there was a need there. Like, I was very healthy. So when this happened, I just started to really wonder what is the purpose of all this? What am I even? What? And that by itself tripped it. That seeking of what I am, what I is, what I means. So as that year went, 2014 went, I was getting sicker and sicker and sicker, and I was having to give up a lot of things, a lot of things that I worked hard to get up to that point that I thought was what you were supposed to do with life, only to realize that as my life was winding down, like, none of it meant anything. None of it meant anything to me. What actually was starting to come about and stir about in me is what really meant anything was the love that's shared. Like how somebody made you feel and how you make them feel. Like how we interact with one another. I was starting to realize in that moment that I only really regretted the times that I was too busy and rushing too much or not present enough to fully be with somebody, to fully offer full attention and attentiveness and feel them. The times that I lacked compassion, the times that I was quick to anger and let my anger get the best of me to the point that maybe I said something I didn't fully mean, and it started to make me realize, like, man, you have to get to a point to understand yourself so deeply so that you can portray what you mean to another and leave nothing on the table, because there's gonna come a point where that last breath gets taken. And it made it very real, very often in this life we think about our parents dying or maybe a sibling dying, but we don't take the time to think of that it's us, that it's going to happen to us. We tend to think about it or think that it's going to happen to everybody else, but never see it happening to us. And the funniest thing about that is death is the most efficient thing that we know in life. I mean, it spares absolutely nobody. So from like even the Christian standpoint, like even Jesus Christ died. It happens. So all of this, all of this was happening as that year 2014 progressed and being in and out of the hospital. This stuff's coming to me, and I had a procedure. I was set for a procedure, and I was very, very ill. I was barely able to stay awake. I was barely able. Like, I needed help getting myself up at this point. to even get off the couch or out of bed or anything of that nature. I was just completely depleted. Organs were shutting down. I was going 2 or 3 weeks without eating, and for anybody that don't know, Crohn's disease is a digestive disorder. It's an autoimmune disease where your white blood cells and your T cells and the army troops of your blood start to attack the good gut bacteria as if they're foreign or a virus. So it's actually just your body attacking itself, and food and different things of that nature food, drink, anything like that, stress. I mean, there's multiple things that go into play, but it exacerbates the symptoms that are already there. It doesn't create the symptoms. Like I don't eat something and get symptoms created for Crohn's. Crohn's exists. It's there. It just exacerbates symptoms. So like now I'm in remission. I can typically eat what I want, though. I do watch, I pay attention to how it affects my body, and I try to eat healthy. But the food exacerbates it. So at this time, I was going 2 or 3 weeks without eating. Like there was times I was in the hospital and I had nurses look at me and say, "We don't know how you're doing it, but the only reason that you are alive right now is because your kidneys aren't shutting down. Like they're running. We don't know how, but and honestly, at that time I attributed it to vitamin waters. I was drinking vitamin waters because I could tolerate the pain. I mean, and it's unbearable pain, but I could tolerate the pain and knew that I needed nutrients, but couldn't really eat anything. So I was just drinking Ensures and vitamin waters. So December 8th came, and that was December 8th, 2014. I was going in for a procedure, and it was the procedure that was to diagnose me. And so I go in and I'm ready for this procedure, and I couldn't stay awake. I knew that something was up, and days before this I had completely accepted death. That my time was near, and I was okay with that. You don't really have a choice. When it comes, you can go kicking and screaming if you want to, or you can go consciously. And I learned that consciously is the way that I want to go. So I had accepted that, and I went in, and the procedure started, and I went under and flatlined. I flatlined mid-procedure. I came back to, and everything was frantic. I wasn't sure what had just happened. Like I wasn't quite aware of what would happen, but I could strongly sense the panic. And my specialist was frantic and scurrying around, but trying, like keeping a cool calm. And he was like, "We have to get you to the hospital right now." And it was my wife at the time was they had brought her back, and when I came to it, like I knew that something was off because I was still in the procedure room. I had procedures prior to that, and always woke up in recovery. So like I was, trying to figure out what was going on. And she told me, she said, you just died. And I mean, she was crying, and I remember asking, like, "Why is my face so wet?" And she was like, "Well, you're crying." And it was just a very, very intense moment. But the feeling of that very moment coming back, it wasn't fathomable to wrap the mind around it. Like there was no way that especially at that time, there was no way that I could wrap around what had just happened, that my mind or the mind could even begin to express that. And I had people asking me, what's it like to die? What did you experience? What happened? And I couldn't really answer any of it because it's something that's beyond words. But I knew absolutely 100% that I wanted to spend the rest of my life. Like, I had gotten a second chance. I came back, I came back to it. Sorry.
No, it's okay. I want the answer to this. You want to spend the rest of your life doing?
I wanted to spend the rest of my life. I get emotional when I'm back in that moment. That I wanted to spend the rest of my life teaching compassion, teaching empathy, teaching the self-discovery. Because what's... I might need a second.
It's okay. We've got all the time in the world. I appreciate your display of emotion.
It's well, in this moment, this very moment right here is hitting very hard. Because it's a testament to that goal. So that experience, I knew instantly that I wanted to spend the rest of my life teaching compassion, to explore what it means to be this, because as Osho says, like, life is nothing but a soap bubble, and it will pop, and it's a very short-lived soap bubble. Yet, all of existence and all of experience and love is contained within that. See, one of the things coming out of that experience, and it took time for the mind to wrap around, was that we are absolutely nothing. We're nothing. We're a simple silence. But in that silence is the field of all of the play and the laugh and the love and the light and the dark and the pain that is experienced. See, we're nothing in the sense of no thing. We cannot be no one thing because we are the total of it all. We are all of it. And I want to spend life teaching just that very notion, but not in the sense of teacher to student, sensei to grasshopper, like to actually bring about that seeking in you. So, some years went by, and I needed to try to start to wrap my mind around that. I knew that I wanted to do the things that we were talking about. So, and it was a very topsy-turvy time in life. I was going through a lot of changes, through a lot of awakening, if you want to say. Satori's coming steadily. See, death pushed me into meditation and pushed me into wanting to be meditative. I already was as a child. Like, I would spend hours by myself in my room. I was inclusive. I'm a heavy introvert. Or I have an introverted personality. So I would sit, I played music. I would sit many hours and just listen to music. And actually not like listen and be distracted by things. Fully listen to music. Try to understand what that song was saying, what it was telling me. Listen to the different instruments. I mean, for hours. And that in itself became a meditative state. That I genuinely didn't realize until much later on in life, that that's what I was doing, but I was doing that. So I took a 4-day vow of silence, back in, it was 2018. And I didn't know why I was so drawn to do so. Like, but I felt it. I felt it in me. And mind you, like I was at this time a supervisor at work. We were busy working a lot of Saturdays and things like that. And that was one of the last hitches on if I should or shouldn't do this. Like, I was like, how am I supposed to,
How did you handle that, being at work and people wanting to talk to you?
that's, that's the thing. I left. I didn't come in. I told the most trusted guy I had working with me. He was, like I said, at this time I was a supervisor and he was my lead builder. And I told him, I said, we had been talking back and forth about this. And I told him, I said, hey, look, man, I'm sorry, but I'm not going to come in tomorrow. I'm not going to be in Saturday. Will you please, like, hold down the fort? I absolutely have to do this. I don't know for how long. But I have to do this. And I went, and that day I went home and I sent a mass text out to friends and family, letting them know, like, what I was doing. And I mean, them being around me, they had sensed the change. Like, even to this day, they I guess they probably understand me a little better now. Even though sometimes they think I'm completely crazy, and that's okay. But they were around me and knew that there had been an intense change. That I was a very, very angry child, mostly because I felt so misunderstood, but understood so much around me. Oh, I'm not saying I'm the only one either. I know many, many people feel that way, if not everybody, at some point. But it really, really it created a lot of anger. And I was picking up the emotions of others and taking them into myself, and just would lash out, would snap, would and all like that was dissolved. I wasn't so angry anymore. I was very patient. I am, very, very patient. Like they had noticed that change. And
you were meditating a lot by this point.
yes, I was spending a lot of time in meditation. I was talking about meditation, trying to talk to my family about it, and again, like they're not very spiritual in the sense of like the awakening type. There's really no way to label it, nor do I really want to. But they they're very straightforward. So again, they thought many times throughout this that I was crazy. And this translated through my childhood too. My mother put me in therapy twice, thinking that I was schizophrenic. I mean, like this was a battle that I had been going through for a long time. You see, so I knew that I needed this vow of silence. So I sent out this mass text, and they accepted that, and the first 3 days, for 3 days I didn't speak. But for 3 days I didn't speak, and I spent more time meditating than I wasn't meditating. To the extent of hours and hours and hours. I didn't track any of it. I don't know how long of periods I was sitting in meditation. What I do know is I was only out of meditation in brief points of sleep, and for maybe 5 to 8 waking hours. Anything outside of that was either walking meditation, zazen meditation, transcendental meditation, mindful meditation. I was doing yoga nidra. I just totally immersed in that, like for the better parts of 3 days straight. And coming out of that, I gave myself the 4th day, still not talking, and just allowed processing coming out of all of that meditating. And so when I sat down again, like I said, there was no goal. I had no idea. I just knew I needed to do it. That everything was telling me I needed to do it. And it was coming from that back set of wanting to understand, what is this again? That okay, I was asking all these questions when I was dying, and then I died, and here I am back. Like, what is this? What does it mean? So if you want to say meditating on, that's what I was meditating on. Just I was contemplating life.
What is the purpose of life?
Simply to be all that is you. To laugh, to love, to suffer, to experience.
All of it.
Every aspect of it you can. See, we often say, what is life? Or I have a life, or my life. Like we say that very often. But in truth, there's no separation between you and it. Like, you are it, and it is you. There's no separation. The meaning of life is you, because you are life. The very breath And us sitting here right now speaking is life. That's life. You are it. Life isn't something that you have. It's not. It is the essence of you. That's why the seeking is so important. See, coming out of that 4-day vow of silence, that day I allowed myself to the processing aspect. I was writing down satori's, writing them down, and scribbling, and as I was sitting just and allowing the mind to wrap itself around everything without any influence on my part. Every time it seemed like there was a sudden realization, I'd write it down. And the first thing that I had wrote down coming out was, seek only yourself, not in others or anything outside of yourself. Seek you only through you, and the rest will come. And
that's really good advice for a lot of people out there right now. Especially in today's chaos.
Yes.
There's so many different things grabbing for everybody's attention and consciousness. And there's so many people looking externally. That's why we need people like you to help teach.
Yes. Turn the attention inward. You are the most sophisticated thing on this planet.
The most sophisticated technology, even.
Yes. And so often we search for the answers in a computer, in a phone. We might ask one another, which in itself is a paradox, because like you or me, as I am you, we're human. Together we are. So the little bits or depths that you know about yourself may help unlock little depths about myself. For we are all one, one motion, one movement, one soap bubble. It's see the depths at which you genuinely and truly know and understand the self is you and what you are, who you are the depths that you can know another. And again, that seeking must take place first in here. We have a mind, and one of the major crises in the world today is simply we have mistaken ourselves for our own intellect. We have mistaken ourselves for our own mind. The mind, and I guess what I'm saying as or referring to as the mind isn't thinking, and that is the dialogue that runs inside of your head 24/7 every day. 24/7, 365. From the time you wake up to the time you lie down to go to sleep, there's this a voice running inside, and we listen to that voice and tend to think that that's us. Like a little trick, okay, and a great propaganda marketing trick. So you're driving down the road, okay, and you're not hungry. You're not hungry at all. You're driving down the road and you see the golden arches. Now all of a sudden, you might look at that and think, oh man, start thinking about McDonald's. then all of a sudden you're hungry. Maybe not right when you see it, but you get 10 minutes down the road, and all of a sudden you start thinking, you're like, man, I could eat. Like, I'm hungry. So it's this I am, so we got lost in the river of thought. We observed that sign and started thinking about food because food is tied with that sign. And then naturally, you eat when you're hungry. So this progression happens, and it happens through the form of thought. But if that thought is you, and you're talking about eating, then who is the one that's aware that it even exists? Who's the watcher of that thought? Have you ever even watched thought to know that you're something that's outside of it? That's a question that essentially must be asked.
Who's hungry?
Right. Exactly. Yes. Who's the one that wants to eat right now? And you keep going and going into that and watching.
Self-inquiry.
Yes. So many people want to awaken. Many people want to find enlightenment. And in all truth, self-inquiry is
a beautiful path to enlightenment.
100%. But it takes diligence. It takes dedication. You can't just, and so meditation is important because you can't. Right now, we think about thoughts. Big time, especially with the blow up of how accessible everything is on the internet. We think about thoughts. We think about how we're going to solve a problem with thinking about another thought to solve that problem.
Well, and we've ran ourselves into chronic fatigue and hypertension and heart disease.
Yes.
We're just chronically stressed as a species right now. So I have a question. That is my question for everyone that sits in that chair. Is what is your advice for humanity?
Learn to be with the birds. Learn to be with the trees, with the grass, and with the fellow humans. Simply be. We create a lot of ruckus, running around thinking that there's this and that to accomplish. Don't get me wrong, there's many, many things that could make this world a better place to be. But it starts with being. The bird don't think about how it should be. It just is. It's just the bird.
Flowers don't think about how to be a flower. It just is.
Yes.
It's actually beautiful.
Yes. It's a beautiful blossoming.
That's great advice.
Blossom like the flower.
Yeah. I like it. I also wanted to maybe talk a little bit about your the art of meditation workshop that you teach. Maybe you would share a little bit about that with us.
So, the art of meditation is a 4-part course. It covers what we're fundamental meditations in my practice that I use still to this day, and actually can be used and intertwined with many of the other practices throughout our history, throughout ancient history. It's a building block in a way of one builds upon another, which builds upon another. Techniques that you learn in the first class can become more refined and used in a deeper way using the technique in the third class. So it kind of builds upon itself. But it teaches Vipassana in this order: mindfulness, Zazen, into transcendental. All meditations that have very much stood the test of time, per se. Transcendental being mainstream, the newest, coming about in the 60s, but in the class we would go more in depth in how this works and how this happens, but it has been used as a technique throughout ancient history. It just wasn't labeled or used as such in such a focus as it became in the 60s. So I say fundamental in the sense of of using it as a technique without a label in ancient history, but labeled wise, people want to do research, they'll find that is relatively new. It's not transcendental. Isn't discussed back in Buddhist time, although the base of the practice was used back in that time. So we go into all of those again. It's a building block course. It's a discourse style, but interactive. We do meditations. We practice each meditation, and kind of go into the different techniques, and the floor is open for questions, whether they be asked during or saved for the end. I encourage the questions to be asked as they come to mind. They're in the class, there's brief silences and breaths taken that a question can be asked in, so that would be encouraged. No need to save all of them till the end.
Yeah, because you might forget them. I always forget sometimes.
Yeah.
So it's nice that it has a comfortable, relaxed atmosphere to be able to ask questions, because that's so important,
Well, that's one of we want the tone of the class to be meditative.
Mm-hmm.
So from start to finish, that is the tone. To leave refreshed, calm, maybe having gained something, even in seeking. And that's the thing. That's not gained from me. I'm not handing you something, putting it on your shoulders, and you're leaving with that. It's you gaining it within yourself. That's what it's about.
But there is a transmission and an energy exchange, teaching these methods. But I wanted to say you can catch the Art of Meditation workshop at the Quantum Realm Yoga and Mystery School in Elkhart, Indiana. So if you're local, you can check that out. Just take that workshop with Thomas. And then one last question. I know you've done a lot of research on different gurus and things like that. Is there one that really stands out to you, that really speaks to your heart, that has felt like a mentor or a teacher for you?
And Jiddu Krishnamurti comes to mind.
Yeah.
First and foremost. Yes, Jiddu Krishnamurti. Wonderful man. Uh, extremely intelligent. Um, that enlightened in the sense of, I guess, what it. I genuinely don't like coining the phrase or term the phrase enlightenment. I use it because that seems to be how people relate. But like in all honesty, an enlightened being's never gonna be like, I'm enlightened. Come listen to me. Like that's not how it goes. So
That's ego, right?
Right.
There's got to be words to be able to express these things sometimes. So yeah.
100%. And that's part of the ups and downs of it. Osho is another one that I like, very, very provoking guru there. But he there's just so much that can be said about him. But he would take silences and take vows of silence, and because when you're trying to put something that's beyond words and beyond the mind, that's been thoroughly experienced, naturally the translation's gonna get lost some. And sometimes it's nice to retreat and be in the sanctity of that, because it needs to be continually, there has to be a line continued to it, so that you can continue to put it into words, so that it can continue to be said and be taught without the muckiness of misunderstandings, because that is a hard part. It is easily misunderstood because it absolutely has to be experienced. And the teacher can be a gateway to that experience. As you're saying, that transmission, like we're gonna hand tools and teach how to use those tools, but at the end of the day, it's you have to use the tool to get it to work.
Yeah, there's a saying, like, the teacher shows you the door, but it's you that must walk through that door.
Enough said. So being able to fall back and retreat and go into a silence and just be all inclusive is very refreshing when you're, especially for Osho talked to thousands and thousands and thousands of people, reached thousands and thousands and thousands of people regularly. So it's only reasonable that he would need to take months of silence at a time where he needed to step away and
recharge.
Yes, Jiddu done the same. So Jiddu done it in different ways. Sometimes, like, he produced, teaching institutes and then different things like that. And sometimes he would retreat just into that work. But he wouldn't be speaking, public talking. He maybe close-knit group that he would talk to, but he at the end of the day, it's very, very nice to be able to go and again, just be, to drop all of this, to drop the mind, to drop the need to be something, to take the mask off of how should I be in this sense, or how should I be in this sense, like to be able to go and let all of that go for a minute and just simply be you in your natural empty state. It's very, very refreshing, very recharging. You said earlier, like the world is very like in angst and very exhausted, tired, like stressed. Like that's go be with the birds. Go be with the birds. You need a break from your own mind. But putting your mind to the side, like the world. The world was spinning without you before you manifested into this. And it can go again without intellect just for a second. Just for a second. It can. That
And they'll be happier and calmer and more
yes.
peaceful.
Yes. Yes.
So one thing I thought what we could do is maybe just take a couple deep breaths. Maybe we can encourage the viewers that are with us today to take this moment of silence with us.
Okay. You lead?
It never ceases to amaze me how powerful, profound silence is.
Yes.
I'm in love. Thank you so much, Thomas, for being with us and being on our show.
Thank you.
We appreciate you coming here and sharing your story with us.
Thank you.
All right, and if you want to check out more about Thomas, check out the Quantum Realm Yoga and Mystery School. You can see him there. Thank you everyone for joining us today, and we hope that you all are living in love, peace, and happiness.
Namaste.
Namaste.